Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Hometown Heroes Podcast with your host, Thomas Fallon. Today, we have the newly chosen Bishop of Youngstown, Bishop David Bonnar. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Thomas. It's great to be here.
Thank you. So, the first question I have for you, Bishop, is, when did you first hear that call to become a priest? Was there an event or was there an interaction that happened? Talk about that.
That's a great question. I think when people hear stories about or meet someone who's a priest or even for that matter a bishop, one of the questions is, how did it happen? How did you know you were called to be a priest? And it isn't a lightning bolt. It isn't a strike of thunder. It's a whisper that takes place over time. And ever since I was a little boy, I was always fascinated by the church. And my parents, I'm the fourth of five children. My parents would bring us to Mass every Sunday, and we would always sit in the first pew. We had front row seats, and it was like, who do they know that we got these seats? And so when you sit that close, you can't help but be drawn in to what is happening. And so I was really drawn in, and I became very, very fascinated by what a priest did, not just at the altar, but just in the everyday life of helping people, of teaching, of healing, of listening, of leading, serving. And so all of those things came into play. In fact, when I was a little boy, I remember playing Mass, playing priest, and my little brother would be the altar server and I would be the priest. And and I'm still reminded of this. My family and my neighbors, they remind me of this all the time. So it was something that was just there. It was a seed that began to grow. And it was something too that, I came close to entering the seminary after high school, but I didn't because, I really liked, I was a social guy. I had a lot of girlfriends, friends that were girls. And I didn't know if I was really called. I really, I could see myself then being married, having a family, but, I just kept, praying and the Lord just kept leading me. And here I am.
I think we've all, tried to be a priest once in our childhood before. It's something I've done too. I think it's a cool thing to do. So furthermore, how does one go about becoming a bishop?
Well, that's a really loaded question because it's a lot of it we don't know. There's a process that's involved, but it's very, very private, almost secretive, but it's very collaborative. It involves many people. And it eventually results in a phone call. So what happens is, I think that, names emerge either from your bishop or from other bishops. I don't really know because I've never experienced this before. And they are, vetted and people are asked about, and this is all confidential. And when all is said and done, it goes to Rome, to the Congregation of Bishops and the Holy Father. And the next thing you know, a decision is made. And then every country has what is called a nuncio. It's somebody who represents the Pope, kind of like an ambassador. And he's the one in that country who relays to the candidate that the Holy Father has chosen that person to be bishop. And I remember in my own case, it was November 9th. I was just getting ready to go into my car to go to the park and walk. And lo and behold, I get this call. I had no idea who it was from. And the person on the other end had an accent because the Archbishop is from France. And he asked me, "Is this Father David Bonnar?" And I said, "Yes," and he said, "Are you alone?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Can you may want to sit down for what I'm going to tell you." And then he proceeded to tell me that the Holy Father had named me to be the next bishop of Youngstown. And of course, hearing this, I was just blown away, and I was silent. I was beginning to cry because I was just so overwhelmed to be chosen by the Holy Father. And then he said, "Well, do you say yes?" And I said, "Absolutely." With humility and gratitude, I say yes. And that was a life-changing day.
I would like to say congratulations on that too, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
So talk about how this transition has been. I know it's only been about a month or so, but talk about how, that's been.
Well, I have been transferred probably 7 or 8 times before this, but this is the most significant transfer or transition that I've ever entered into because it involves a change in identity. Uh, I'm no longer um, Father Dave Bonnar. I am now Bishop Dave Bonnar. And with that comes huge responsibilities to teach, to lead, to sanctify. And I'm also no longer a Pennsylvanian or a Pittsburgher. I now am someone who lives in Northeastern Ohio. I'm an Ohioan. I'm someone who lives in Y-Town, and I'm very excited about it. In fact, I just last week I got my Ohio driver's license in the mail, and about 10 days before that, I had to go to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles. And interestingly enough, I had to take an eye exam, which, and I don't know if you have to do that in Pennsylvania. I know, I don't remember doing that, but in any event, it's good to know that so that we know that the people who are driving have good eyesight and can see. So I am officially an Ohioan, but um, and I live here in Youngstown, and I'm getting to know the surroundings, the 6 counties of Youngstown, and all the people within that, and of course all the needs. And I've been meeting with a lot of people, been doing a lot of planning, and of course a lot of praying. I've never prayed so much, in my life. So the transition has been uh, exciting. It's been scary. It's been unique because of the identity change. And, in fact, when I was out at, I'm sure you know that the St. Patrick's Church in Hubbard, I wasn't even here a week and it caught fire. And so when I found out, I went out there immediately, and I kept hearing people in the parking lot saying, "Father, Father, Father." And I kept turning around, thought they were, thinking that they were speaking to me. And then it dawned on me, I'm not Father anymore. I'm Bishop. They weren't speaking to me. So I'm getting used to it, and every day I learn more and come to know more. And so to answer your question, it's been exciting, and it's different every day.
I want to say welcome to this area too, by the way. I hope you're enjoying your time and that your transition is going, smoothly.
Thank you. It is, and I always followed the Penguins, the Pittsburgh Penguins, but now I follow the Youngstown Penguins. And I'm really happy to be here. It's a wonderful community, very loving people, hospitable people, people who, much like my roots, they love family, they love food, they love their faith. And so I'm so glad to be a part of it.
So, talk about the Priest magazine. A lot of people may not know that you do that. Talk about how cool it is to be a part of that.
Yeah, about 4.5, 5 years ago, I received a piece of mail inviting me to apply to be the next editor of the Priest magazine. The Priest magazine is published by Our Sunday Visitor. They're located in Huntington, Indiana, which is about 20 miles outside of Fort Wayne, Indiana. And they publish all kinds of religious articles, and they have a news weekly. They also do some other things for the good of the church. And so I went out there for the interview, and they chose me to be the editor. So what I do is I am the content editor. So every month I sit down at the computer and I generate stories. So I think of something that would be relevant for today's priest, predominantly a priest in parish life. And I look for that topic, and then I try to identify an author for that topic. And then usually there's 5 or 6 articles in every issue, which is printed monthly. And then along with that, I also write an article each month in there. And I work with a team. We it's really interesting living in that world because we have the content, but we also have to develop the imagery around that content, the cover of the magazine. And it's so great being part of a team. And before the pandemic, I would travel to Fort Wayne 4 times a year to kind of go over all this with the team. But now we just do it remotely because of the pandemic. So it is cool. It is exciting. And it's really nice when people say, "Hey, I really liked the Priest magazine this month," or "I liked, your article in the Priest magazine." So I love to write. I could stay in my room all day and just write. It's a wonderful way to reach hearts, and I find it very inspiring and very life giving.
I think that's very awesome, especially, now being the bishop, you don't see too many, I don't want to, that I know of bishops doing stuff like that. So I think that's awesome that what you're doing.
Thank you, thank you. It's exciting.
Okay, so, what do you think is the role of people like me and other young people in the church and in our world?
Yeah, I think the role is to show up every day, to be present, and to bring life. Jesus said in the Gospels, "I come that you might have life and have it abundantly." All of us, through our baptism, are called to be life givers, to bring that life to one another. And the great thing about young people is they bring a newness, a freshness, an excitement, and energy. I can feel it from you. You just seem so alive, and with that, you bring a curiosity, you bring an inquisitiveness, some real sense of questioning. And so, and we can't be afraid of questions. That's how we learn, is through questions. In fact, when I was graduating from high school, somebody gave me this paperweight in the form of a question mark. So I guess you see it better this way. So and it's a brass paperweight, and I've kept it with me everywhere I've gone, because we can't stop asking questions. And I think that's one of the great things about what the youth bring. I know that when my oldest nephew was much younger, he's like close to 40 now, but he would always ask his mom and dad these questions: why? And finally, his mom, my sister, said, "Sean, you need to call your Uncle Dave, and maybe he has the answers to those questions." I don't pretend to have the answers to the questions, but I do think that we can all grow and learn from asking the questions and by pursuing the answers together. So just in terms of what people bring, I think they bring that, the energy, the questions, but they also bring gifts. We're all made in God's image and likeness, and God uses each and every one of us to do his work.
I think that's a very good message, to our youth. Um, so, what does Catholic education mean to you, and how important do you think it is in our diocese?
Well, you're talking to a lifelong product of Catholic education. Other than kindergarten, where I went to the public school just for kindergarten, everything else, first through eighth, high school, college, seminary, was all the Catholic experience. And and my mom and dad made great sacrifices for that to happen, because they really believed that it was important that we have that Catholic upbringing. And I think what Catholic education brings, it brings a perspective, it brings a presence of Jesus, it brings a sense of community, um, and it also brings a sense of formation, where we're formed mind, heart, body, and soul. And I still keep in touch with some of my friends from grade school, through the Catholic experience. We played on the basketball team together, or we were in forensics together. I think that Catholic education is important for the formation of any human being, and for the good of families and the church and community at large. In terms of this diocese, I feel the same way about Catholic education, and I will do whatever I can to continue to encourage and support Catholic education. These are challenging times, and the pandemic has certainly made it even more challenging. Nevertheless, the need is still there, and the just the strength of Catholic schools is still there. And it's not just the reading, writing, and arithmetic; it's the experience of Jesus with a community of so many different people. And it's the traditions. I remember going to one of my schools, the principal, when I was just a newly named pastor in this one place, the principal called me over and he said, "Father, there's one word you're going to hear a lot of here, and that's tradition." And I think that's one of the great things about Catholic education. There's so many traditions that we identify with and that define us. So I will do whatever I can to support Catholic education.
I know you're still new, but if you ever get a chance, you come to John F. Kennedy and we'll show you know what tradition is about because it's really true. And the family and the tradition that we have, it's like no other.
Well, I thank you for the invitation, and I will take you up on that. I believe JFK is in Warren,
Hmm.
right? And so my hope is that before the school year's out, I can get out there and I have mass and meet and greet all of you. What is your team mascot for
An eagle,
an eagle? Okay, so it's the JFK Eagles.
right?
Okay. And what are the colors?
Red, white, and blue.
Red, white, and blue. Wow, of course, very patriotic.
Yeah.
JFK. Okay, great.
So I know we talked a little bit about COVID, but I think that for Catholics and for people in general, the hardest part of this pandemic has been not being able to interact. You know, whether that's shaking hands in mass, church festivals like the Mount Carmel Festival in Niles here, you know, round table talks, etc. So with that, how do we get that connection back, and what can the church do you think to help us to bring that back?
Well, you're so right in just outlining that challenge. How do we come out of this darkness into the light? And actually, that's a question that I wrestled with in my prayer. And it led me to write a pastoral letter, which I issued on Friday of last week. And a pastoral letter is a tool that bishops use to teach, to inspire, to inform, to invite, to encourage, among other things. And so my pastoral letter is entitled Testify to the Light. And it's based upon John the Baptist, who pointed to the light of Jesus. And he did it ever so humbly, saying, you know, I must decrease, he must increase. He knew his role, and we all have to know our given roles. And so I think one of my jobs as the leader of this flock is to find ways for our faithful to move from the darkness of this moment, the darkness of the pandemic, the darkness of what has happened in our country in recent months, to you know, with the racial tensions and with the fallout of the election process, and you know what happened at the Capitol. I think in the midst of all of this, we have to point to the light of Jesus and get to that new dawn. And one of the ways that I encourage us to do that is by first reflecting upon our sacramental life, revisiting the sacraments and what they mean for us. Secondly, looking again at our family, which is considered the first church. And then lastly, identifying five areas for priority or for focus as we forge ahead, which include prayer, healing, communication, service, and witness. And we all have to do our part in that regard. I think the answer to how do we move out of this darkness is we all need to look within and recapture that light of Jesus and be that light for the world.
You're absolutely right. You know, that's something that one of my goals too is with this is to bring light on, you know, all the good that you do and that everyone does. You know, it's about that. So I think that's a very good and strong message.
Thank you.
With people, you know, being granted dispensation, you know, from Sunday Mass, is there a fear that, you know, some people may not come back?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a fear that is becoming more real as we get closer to that new dawn, um, where the restrictions will be lifted and the dispensation will be removed. I think you know you can use the description of Saint Lazy Boy, you know, sitting in your lazy boy chair and watching the mass virtually. I think some people have gotten comfortable with that, you know. Um, but we're still a church that is meant to gather, to come together. We're a community of believers. And so, yes, there are concerns about that. But thankfully, I've spoken to, you know, some priests, and they've told me that their attendance is starting to rise as more and more people get vaccinated. It just seems that people are becoming a little bit more comfortable coming back to mass. But the concern that you mentioned is justified for sure.
Right. So last question I have for you. the one I've been looking forward to is, so what was the role like of being the chaplain of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Talk about that.
Well, are you a Steelers fan?
I am not. That's
That's
something
okay.
that you may, there's a lot of Browns fans, there's a lot of Steelers fans now, so you may.
It's okay. It's okay. God made us all, and we're all on the same team. And it's only a game. That's one of the things I learned. Well, you know what? I grew up in Pittsburgh. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, being born in 1962. And I saw, not only did I see two World Series, I saw the Pirates win the World Series in 1971 and again in 1979. And God only knows when they're ever going to do it again. But I also was so blessed to see four Super Bowl victories for the Steelers as a kid. And so much so that, people often call Pittsburgh the city of champions. Um, and there was a time, and then you add to that the Penguins and their Stanley Cups. It was just a really exciting time. Everybody loves a winner. And when our teams win, it's exciting, and it just kind of it takes away some of the worries and fears and concerns that bog us down. But in terms of being the chaplain, it happened ever so innocently. I went to Seton LaSalle High School, and one of my classmates was Jim Sweeney, who was, you probably don't even know his name, but Jim Sweeney, he played at the University of Pittsburgh on the offensive line. He was drafted by the New York Jets, played there for, I believe, 9 years, then went off to Seattle, and then came to Pittsburgh in free agency. And I was a parish priest at the time, and he called me up. He said, "Dave, what do you do on Saturday nights?" And I said, "Well, there's three of us priests, so every third Saturday night I have Mass." He said, "Well, how would you like to have Mass for the Steelers? They don't do that here, and we usually gather in the hotel the night before the game. Could you come and have Mass?" I said, "Absolutely." So I did that, and I was like a little kid the night before Christmas, the first game. I was in the hotel the night before the first game, and there's the prayers of the faithful where we offer to God our petitions. And I remember saying, "Gents, who should we pray for this week?" And I remember Jim, my classmate, saying, "Well, ever since I was a little boy, my parents always taught us to pray for our opponent. So I just want to pray for the Dallas Cowboys." So the next day, we went to the game, and guess what? The Cowboys trounced the Steelers. So the Steelers were home again the next weekend. And I said, "Guys, who should we pray for?" And Mike Tomczak, who was one of the quarterbacks at the time, said, "I'd like to suggest that we not pray for our opponent this week." And guess what? The Steelers won. Now, I don't think we should draw any connection that, I think God is a fan of all of us, and I think that God probably looks at all of this, with a twinkle in his eye and a sense of humor, and is probably excited to know that people are trying to work as a team. They're trying to excel and do their best, and that people are there to support them. But he probably doesn't look at it with the same eyes that we look at it. But it was a wonderful experience. I did it for about 11 or 12 years. I got to travel with the team occasionally. It was just a really, really uplifting experience.
Well, that's a great story, and you have great values, morals, and I'm so excited to have you, as our new bishop. I'm excited for the future. I just want to say thank you for, all you're doing now, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Thomas. I wish you all the best, and God bless you. And I hope to see you at JFK in Warren when I visit all the students and come to celebrate Mass. But you might want to let the principal know that you invited me, and I'm going to come.
I will. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Take care.
God bless you.
God bless you too.